Namaste. I'm gonna read the rest of the translations for Srimad Bhagavatam. So probably, I don't know how much Sanskrit I'll actually read, or maybe, I'll read some translations and then I'll stop and do something else. I have to read up to chapter 14. Because I've realized that the 7-day reading of Srimad Bhagavatam is to be done by somebody who's read the entire book before. I haven't read the entire book in Sanskrit yet. So I'm going to do that first. So, maybe I'll do one chapter in the morning and one chapter at night. So, total 2 chapters. I'll do one chapter now and I'll do another chapter just before I do my ASMR. And there'll be 2 chapters I think it'll help me heal tremendously. So let me switch. And I'm gonna get a lighting thing for my, because I look like Satan. I look more satanic than usual. You look more Satan than usual. You mean satanic? No. You look more Satan than usual. What does that even mean? Okay, chapter 5. There we go. Discourse 5. Glory of singing the Lord's praises. And then I don't want to read, because that's not written, this headline is not written in Sanskrit anywhere. There's no Sanskrit text to be found. Hindi, yeah, sure, but that's not, Hindi is not Sanskrit. Hindi is not Sanskrit. Hindi is not Sanskrit. One thing you take from anything that I do here, one thing that you take, Hindi is not Sanskrit. Thank you. Namaste. Sutta says, when comfortably seated, lute in hand, the celestial sage of extensive renown spoke to the Brahmano sage Vedavyasa, who sat beside him, as if smiling. Narada said, most blessed Vyasa, I hope your physical self as well as your mental self are satisfied in themselves. I am sure all that you wanted to know has been fully realized since you produced the most wonderful Mahabharata, which fully deals with all the objects of human pursuit. You have also investigated the truth of and realized the eternal Brahma. Nevertheless, my lord, you bewail your lot as if you had not yet realized the object of your life. Vyasa replied, all that you have said about me is true, yet my soul finds no satisfaction. We ask you the cause of it, which is unknown to me, since your knowledge is unfathomable, you being a son of Brahma. You know all hidden truths inasmuch as you have worshipped the most ancient person, who is the ruler of both Prakriti and Purusha, and who by his very thought creates, sustains, and reabsorbs the universe with the help of the 3 gunas, though remaining unattached to the same. You go about all the 3 worlds, even as the sun does, and moving within all, like the vital air, you can read the minds of all. Even though I have fully realized through the practice of yoga and the observance of sacred vows both the Supreme Brahma and Brahma in the form of the Vedas, pray point out to me my great deficiency. Narada replied, you have failed to sing adequately the stainless glory of the Lord. I consider that wisdom to be deficient, which does not tend to please the Lord. O chief of sages, you have not so fully described the glory of Bhagavan Vasudeva as you have dealt with the objects of human pursuit, such as dharma, etc. Speech which, though full of figurative expressions, never utters the praises of Sri Hari, the praises that possess the virtue of sanctifying the whole world, is considered to be the delight of voluptuous men, who wallow in the pleasures of sense like crows that feed upon the dirty leavings of food, like swans that are traditionally believed to have their abode in the lotus beds of the Manasarovara lake. Devotees who have taken shelter in the lotus feet of the Lord, and therefore ever abide in his heart, never take delight in such speech. On the other hand, that composition which, though faulty in diction, consists of verses, each of which contains the names of the immortal Lord, bearing the impress of his glory, wipes out the sins of the people. It is such composition that pious men love to hear, sing, and repeat to an audience. That wisdom too, which is free from blemish and is the direct means to the attainment of liberation, does not adorn one's soul so much if it is devoid of devotion to Lord Achyuta. How then can action with an interested motive, which is rooted in sorrow at every stage, and even disinterested action that has not been dedicated to God to serve to heighten one's glory, and then with an unfailing eye and possessed of sacred renown, O highly blessed Vyasa, you are devoted to truth and steadfast of resolve. Therefore, with a concentrated mind now, recall the exploits of Sri Hari, who wields unthinkable power with a view to the liberation of the entire humanity. The man who desires to talk of anything else than the Lord's exploits falls into the trap of the manifold names and forms, bound by such desire and sees diversity everywhere. Like a boat beaten by a blast, his unsteady mind finds no rest anywhere. It was a great error on your part to have enjoined horrible acts in the name of religion on men who are naturally addicted to such acts. Misguided by these precepts of yours, the ordinary man of the world will believe such acts to be pious and will refuse to honor the teaching that prohibits such actions. Only some wise men can, by withdrawing from worldly enjoyments, experience the bliss which forms the essential character of the eternal and infinite Lord. Therefore, kindly narrate the exploits of the Lord for the good of those who are working under the impulse of the three gunas and lack the spiritual sense. Has evil ever befallen him anywhere who adores the lotus feet of Shri Hari, neglecting his own duty, even if he dies at a stage when he is yet unripe in his devotion or falls from his sadhana? On the other hand, what purpose has been achieved by those who fail to worship God through devotion to their duty? A wise man should strive after that object alone which cannot be attained by going round from the highest to the lowest regions. As for the pleasures of sense, they are had as a matter of course everywhere, like sorrow as a result of past actions by flux of time, which is too quick to be perceived. Dear Vyasa, a servant of Lord Mukunanda never returns to this world consisting of birth and death, like others, even if by accident he turns averse to him at any time. Recalling the joy of having once embraced the Lord's lotus feet, he would not think of abandoning them, since he has tasted their sweetness. This universe is no other than the Lord, who is yet apart from it, being responsible for the continuance, destruction, and coming into being of this world. You know it yourself, yet I have indicated it to you by way of a hint. O Vyasa of unfailing vision, know it for yourself that you are a ray of the highest person, the Supreme Spirit, and that though unborn, you have taken birth for the good of the world. Therefore describe at full length the exploits of the Lord of exalted glory. The wise have declared that the abiding purpose of man's austere penance, sacred knowledge, sacrificial performances, recitation of the Vedas with correct intonation, enlightenment, and bestowal of gifts is to recount the virtues of that Lord of excellent fame. During the last Kalpa, in my previous existence, O sage, I was born of a maidservant of Brahmanas, well versed in the Vedas. While yet a baby boy, I was told off to serve some yogis who wished to stop at one place during the rains. Though a mere child, I was free from all childish frolics, was quite tame and submissive, spoke little, and remained aloof from playthings. Though viewing all alike, the sages were particularly kind to me, who did all kinds of service to them. With the willing consent of those Brahmanas, I ate, once in 24 hours, whatever was left in their dishes after they had finished their meals, and was thereby cleansed of all sins. Thus engaged in their service, I attained the purity of mind, which conceived the liking for their religious creed. There, by the grace of those saints who are given to singing the Lord's praises, I would daily listen to the soul-ravishing stories of Sri Krishna. Even as I heard these stories with reverence, O dear Vyasa, step by step I developed an attraction for the Lord of delightful fame. When I developed an affinity for him, O great sage, my mind got firmly established in that Lord of delightful glory. Through such a mind, I began to perceive the whole of this gross and subtle world as assumed in me, the Absolute by Maya. In this way, throughout the rains as well as in the coming autumn, I heard with rapt attention thrice every day the holy praises of Sri Hari as they were sung by those high-souled sages, and forthwith sprouted in my heart that devotion which eradicates the element of rajas and tamas. To me, who was devoted to those sages, modest in bearing, sinless, full of faith, tame and submissive, though yet a child, those saints, compassionate as they were to the afflicted, graciously imparted, when about to depart, that most esoteric wisdom which has been directly revealed by the Lord himself. Through that wisdom I came to know the glory of the Maya of Lord Vasudeva, the maker of this world, by knowing which men attain to his abode. O sage, I have thus indicated to you how actions dedicated to the Lord, who is the ruler of this universe, as well as the Supreme Brahma, serve as the cure for the threefold agony. O Vyasa of commendable vow, the same substance which contributes to a particular malady cannot ordinarily counteract the disease, but when taken in a properly medicated form, it does cure the ailment. Similarly, all the activities of men ordinarily lead to transmigration, but the same, when offered to the Lord, lose their binding character. On duties that are performed in this world for the pleasure of the Lord depends the attainment of wisdom combined with devotion. Those who perform their actions in obedience to the Lord's behests repeatedly utter and meditate on the praises and names of Shri Krishna. Obeisance to you, O Lord Vasudeva, we meditate on you. Obeisance also to Pradyumna, Aniruddha, and Sankarsana. The Lord presiding over sacrifices has the divine mantra for his body and has no material form. He alone is of true insight who worships him during uttering the name of the four forms as indicated above. O holy Brahmana, when I had thus carried out his behest, Lord Keshava blessed me with self-knowledge, mystic powers, and loving devotion to his feet. O sage of unlimited knowledge, pray, recount the glories of the Almighty Lord by hearing which even the wise reach the end of their quest for knowledge. For they recognize only the chanting of such glory, and no other, as the only means of relieving the afflictions of those who are repeatedly tormented by trials and turmoils. Thus ends fifth discourse forming part of the dialogue between Vyasa and Narada in Book 1 of the great and glorious Bhagavata Purana, otherwise known as the Paramahamsa Samhita. Okay, moving on. Discourse 6. Sutta says, O Shanaka, having thus heard the story of the Devarshi's birth and spiritual endeavors, Maharshi Vyasa, the son of Satyavati, again inquired of him as follows. Vyasa said, when the ascetics who instructed you in spiritual wisdom had departed, what did you do, since you happened to be a mere child at that time? In what manner, O son of Brahma, did you spend the rest of your life? And how did you cast off your mortal coil when the time came? Foremost of heavenly beings, how did time, which obliterates everything, fail to obscure the memory of your existence in the preceding Kalpa? Narada replied, when the ascetics who instructed me in spiritual wisdom had left, I proceeded to do this, tender of age as I was. I was the only issue of my mother, who was an ignorant woman and a servant maid to boot. She had bound herself with ties of affection to me, her son, who solely depended on her. Much as she liked to supply my wants and to provide against my future, she failed to do so, dependent as she was. The world is indeed subject to the control of its ruler, even as a puppet is controlled by the wire puller. Out of regard for her, I continued in that locality of the Brahmanas. Being only 5 years of age, I had no idea then of the four quarters or even of time and space and time. Once during the night, she left her house to milk a cow. While on her way, she trod on a snake, which, as fate would have it, bit the helpless woman. I took it as a boon from the Lord, which is solicitous for the welfare of his devotees, and then set out in a northerly direction. In that journey, I passed through prosperous lands, cities, villages, temporary habitats of cowherds, mines, hamlets, stray habitations by the side of mountains and rivers, enclosures containing plantations, groves and gardens, mountains charming with minerals of various colors, trees with boughs broken by elephants, lakes containing delightful water, lotus ponds frequented by gods and rendered vocal by birds of diverse notes, and adorned by bees hovering about. Having journeyed across these all alone, I came in sight of an extensive and formidable forest dense with rushes, bamboos, reeds, gusha grass, and hollow bamboos, and which presented a dreadful appearance, infested as it was with serpents, owls, and jackals. Sorry, I'm trying to enunciate. Wearied in mind and body and overcome with thirst and hunger, I bathed in the pool of a river, drank of its water, rinsed my mouth with it, and felt refreshed. In that forest uninhabited by men, I sat down at the foot of a bee-bull tree and contemplated with a collective mind on the Lord residing in my heart as I had heard of him. Even as I meditated on his lotus feet with the mind overpowered by love, tears rushed to my eyes as a result of eagerness to behold Shri Hari, who gradually appeared on the screen of my heart. The hair on my body stood on end due to an outburst of love, and my heart experienced the thrill of excessive joy and tranquility. I immersed in a flood of ecstasy, O sage, I lost consciousness of both myself and the object of my perception. Even as I failed to perceive that indescribable form of the Lord, which was enrapturing to the heart and dispelled all grief, I felt disturbed and sprang on my feet like one troubled at heart. My pain is acting up. It's funny how that's related to this. Longing to behold it once more, I fixed a mind on my heart and looked for it, but could not see it. Now I felt miserable like one whose desire had not been sated. To me thus struggling in that lonely forest, the Lord, who is beyond words, spoke in sublime yet soft words, as if to soothe my grief. Alas, in this birth you are unfit to behold me, for I am difficult of perception for those who have not attained perfection in yoga, and the impurities of whose heart have not yet been wholly burnt. It was only to arouse in you a burning desire to see me that I have once revealed my form to you. One who longs to see me shakes off gradually but completely all one's latent desires. Through services rendered by you to the saints, even for a short time period, your thought has been irrevocably fixed on me. Sorry, my injury. Irrevocably fixed on me. Okay. Therefore, casting off this reprehensible body, you will attain to the position of my own attendant. The thought you have thus fixed on me shall never cease, and by my grace you will continue to remember me even when the whole creation has perished. Having said this much, that great invisible being, the ruler of all and omnipresent as ether, stopped short. Realizing his unique grace, I for my part bowed my head to him, the greatest of the great. Shaking off all shyness, I now began to repeat the mysterious and auspicious names and fix my thoughts on the exploits of the infinite Lord. Rid of all cravings, free from vanity and jealousy and contented at heart, I roamed about on the globe awaiting my end. To me, who had my thoughts fixed on Sri Krishna, who was free from attachment, and whose heart was thus purified, death came at the appointed hour like a flash of lightning, O holy sage. When I was about to be translated to the immaterial form of an attendant of the Lord, my material body fell, the prarabdha that had been responsible for it having been reaped. At the end of the preceding Kalpa, when Lord Narayana slept on the waters of the universal deluge, having reabsorbed the whole creation into himself, and when Brahma was going to enter his body and sleep there, I too entered his body with the ingoing breath. At the expiry of 1,000 revolutions of the 4 yugas, when Brahma rose and wished to bring forth this creation again, Marichi and the other sages, as well as myself, were evolved out of his senses. With my vow of constant remembrance of God continuing uninterrupted, I move about inside as well as outside the 3 worlds, and by the grace of Lord Mahavishnu, my passage is nowhere obstructed. Playing upon this lute bestowed upon me by the Lord himself and bringing out the 7 primary notes of the gamut that represent Brahma in the form of sound, I go about singing the story of Sri Hari. As I thus sing of his exploits, the Lord of delightful renown, whose feet represent all sacred places, soon reveals himself in my heart as if summoned by me. Narration of the Lord's doings has been found to be a veritable raft to cross the ocean of mundane existence for those whose mind is incessantly tormented by the craving for sense enjoyment. A heart smitten with lust and greed every moment does not attain tranquility so surely by course to the various practices of yoga, such as self-control and so on, as through the worship of Lord Mukunda. O sinless one, I have thus told you all that you asked me, viz., the secret of my own birth and doings, and the means of satisfying your soul. Sutta says, having thus spoken to Vyasa, the divine sage Narada took his leave, and playing upon his lute when his way, having no object of his own to accomplish. Blessed is this celestial sage who, while singing the glory of Lord Vishnu to the accompaniment of his lute, feels not only intoxicated himself, but delights the unhappy world as well. Thus ends the sixth discourse, forming part of the dialogue between Vyasa and Narada in Book 1 of the great and glorious Bhagavata Purana, otherwise known as the Paramamsa Samhita. Okay. Discourse 7. Shanaka said, on the departure of Narada, what did the divine and all-powerful Vyasa do after hearing that which was in the mind of the celestial sage? Sutta replied, on the western bank of the Saraswati river, presided over by Brahma, there is a hermitage called Shamyaprasa, which promotes the sacrificial activities of the sages. In the hermitage, which was Vyasa's own abode and was surrounded by a grove of jujube trees, the sage Vyasa sat down, and after sipping a little water, collected his mind by self-effort. In his sinless mind, which had been perfectly concentrated, through the practice of devotion, he saw the primal person as well as Maya, who depends for her very existence on him. Deluded by this Maya, the individual soul, though beyond the three gunas, thinks itself as consisting of the three gunas and suffers the evil consequences brought about by this identification. Knowing that the practice of devotion to the Lord, who is beyond sense perception, is the direct means of counteracting these evils, the sage composed Srimad Bhagavatam for the use of the common people who are ignorant of this fact. Even as a man listens to this work recited, devotion to Shri Krishna, the Supreme Person, wells up in his heart, devotion that dispels grief, infatuation, and fear. Having produced and revised the Bhagavata Samhita, the sage taught it to his son Shuka, who loved to live in retirement. Shanaka said, the sage Shuka is a lover of quietism, and indifferent to everything, he delights only in himself. What was his motive, then, in mastering this voluminous work? Sutta replied, even sages who delight in the self alone, and whose ignorance has been cut asunder, practice disinterested devotion to Shri Hari. Such are his virtues. All this was true, all the more of the divine sage Shukadeva, son of Badarayana, and the beloved of Lord Vishnu's own people, who studied this great chronicle every day, his mind having been captivated by Shri Hari's excellences. I shall now tell you the story of the birth, exploits, and emancipation of the royal sage Parikushit in the ascent of Bandu's sons to heaven, inasmuch as they serve as a prelude to the story of Shri Krishna. When in course of the Mahabharata war, the warriors of the Kaurava and Pandava hosts had fallen like heroes, and when Duryodhana had his thigh broken by a stroke of the mace dealt by Bhima, Ashvatthama severed the heads of Draupadi's sons while they were asleep and presented them to Duryodhana, an act which he imagined would please his master, but which really proved most distasteful to him, since everybody would strongly condemn such an odious act. Sore distressed at the news of the terrible slaughter of her sons, the mother bitterly wailed, her eyes blinded with tears. Then Arjuna, comforting her, said, Then alone shall I have wiped your tears, my good lady, when I cut off the head of that fallen Brahmana, that desperado, with the arrows discharged from Magan and Dui Babu, and present it to you so that you may set your foot on it and then bathe after the cremation of your sons. Having thus consoled his wife in sweet and charming words, Arjuna, who had Shri Krishna for his friend and charioteer, put on his armor and, taking his fierce bow, rode in a chariot with an ensign bearing the figure of a monkey in pursuit of Ashwatthama. When Ashwatthama was now sad at heart for his having assassinated young boys, saw from a distance that Arjuna was rushing towards him, he ran for life in the chariot as far as he could on earth, even as the Sangha fled for fear of Durga. When he saw that his horses were fatigued and that he had none to protect him, the son of a Brahmana thought of the missile presided over by Brahma as the only means to save his life. Even though he did not know how to withdraw the missile, he sipped a little water and, finding his life in peril, fitted the same to his bow and with an attentive mind. A fierce flame blazed forth from the missile and enveloped all sides. When Arjuna saw the danger to his life, he addressed the Vishnu as follows. Arjuna said, Krishna, Krishna, mighty of and the allayer of devotees' fear, you are the only rescuer of those who are incessantly burning with the agony of transmigration. You are God himself, the primal person, existing beyond prakriti, beyond matter. Casting aside Maya by the power of your wisdom, you stand in your absolute being. It is you who, by virtue of your own power, confer taima and other forms of blessings on the soul, whose mind is deluded by your Maya. Even so, this avatar of yours is intended to relieve the burden of the earth and to serve as an object of constant meditation for your own people as well as for those who are exclusively devoted to you. O self-effulgent Lord, I know not what, and hence this awful frightful frame, which is enveloping me on all sides. Shri Bhagavan replied, it is no other than the missile presided over by Brahma and released by Ashwatthama in experienced peril. You are aware he knows not how to call it back. There is no other missile that can overpower it. There is no other missile that can overpower it. Therefore quench the formidable flame of this weapon by a counter flame of the same missile, expert as you are in the use of weapons. Sudha continued, on hearing the Lord's words, Arjuna, the exterminator of rival warriors, sipped a little water, ran round the Lord in reverence, and fitted a Brahmastra to repulse the Brahmastra. The two flames, surrounded by arrows, joined each other, and filling the heavens as well as all the space between heaven and earth, swelled like the sun and the fire at the time of universal destruction. Perceiving the mighty flame of the two missiles, which was consuming all the three worlds, all the people who were being scorched by their heat, though thought it to be the fire of universal destruction. Seeing the distress of the people and the impending destruction of all the worlds, and finding the approval of Shri Krishna, Arjuna withdrew them both. Then he quickly seized the hard-hearted son of Gopi, his eyes burning with rage, and bound him with the rope as one would bind the sacrificial animal. Having forcibly bound the enemy with the rope, he was about to take him to his camp, when the lotus-eyed Lord said to him in rage, Arjuna, you are not to spare him, to kill this fallen Brahmana, who murdered at dead of night innocent boys buried in sleep. A pious man would never kill an enemy who is drunk, unguarded, insane, asleep, tender of age, stupid, terror-stricken, or fallen at his feet, nor would he kill a woman, nor one who has lost one's chariot. That's a pious man. But to slay the merciless wretch who maintains his own life at the cost of another's is to do him good, for the man will repeat such crimes and thereby precipitate his fall. Moreover, you gave your word to Draupadi within my hearing. I shall bring you the head of the man who has slain your sons, O proud lady. Therefore, O valiant Arjuna, dispose of this sinful ruffian who has murdered your own sons. This unworthy member of his race has done something which was loathsome even to his master. Urged in these words by Shri Krishna, who was putting his righteousness to the test, the great Arjuna would not slay Ashwatthama, even though he had murdered his own sons. Then coming up to his camp, Arjuna, who had Shri Govinda for his friend and charioteer, showed him to his beloved consort, who had been grieving all the while for her murdered sons. Looking intently at Ashwatthama, who had been brought in that plight, bound with cords like a sacrificial beast, his face cast down on account of his shameful act, Draupadi, who was tender by nature, took compassion on the offender and bowed to him. That noble lady could not bear to see him brought in bondage, and said, let him be freed, let him be released, a Brahmana that he is, and worthy of our utmost adoration. The worshipful Drona, by whose grace you learned the science of archery with its manifold secrets and acquired the knowledge of the various missiles as well as how to discharge and call them back. It is he himself who is present in the person of his person of this his progeny, his wife, his better half Kurupi, yet survives only because of her having given birth to a valiant son. Therefore, my blessed Lord, the family of your preceptor, who is ever worthy of adoration and salutation for you, does not deserve persecution at your hands, pious as you are. Let not his mother, Gautami, who worshipped her husband as a deity, well, even as I do, grieved at the loss of my children and shedding tears again and again. The whole family of those princes of unconquered mind by whom the Brahmana race is angered is plunged in grief and is soon burnt up with all their kith and kin. Sorry. Almost. I'm gonna take a little break after this chapter. Sutamanan, King Yudhishthira, the son of Taima, O holy Brahmanas, greeted the queen's words, which were pious and fair, compassionate, guileless, impartial, and noble. Nakula and Sadava, Yuyudhana, Arjuna, the divine Shri Kurushunu, himself and all other men and women, endorsed what she said. On that occasion, Bhima indignantly, I can't say certain words, said, for him who wantonly murdered sleeping youngsters without any gain, either to himself or to his master, death has been declared as a boon. Hearing the words of Bhima as well as of Draupadi, Lord Shri Kurushanu looked into the face of his friend and uttered the following words as though smiling. Shri Kurushanu said, even a fallen Brahmana ought not to be slain, and a ruffian surely deserves to be killed. Both these precepts have been taught by me in the scriptures. Therefore carry out both these commands of mine. Redeem the promise you made while consoling your beloved consort. At the same time, do what is agreeable to Bhimasana and Draupadi as well as to myself. Sutta says, Arjuna instantly understood the mind of Shri Hari, and with his sword cut off the gem on the Brahmana's head along with his rocks. Releasing Ashwatthama, who had been bound with cords and put out of countenance by the murder of boys, and who was now deprived of his splendor and gem also, Arjuna expelled him from his camp. Shaving the head, seizure of property, and expulsion from a place. This is the form of capital punishment prescribed for fallen Brahmanas. There is no other corporeal form of capital punishment for them. The worst that you could do to an intellectual, the highest class, is shaving their heads. Seize their prop, whatever they, so, whatever they have costs, I mean, like say if this is what they treasure the most, like to them it costs like $500 million. So yeah, seizure of property and expulsion from a place, make them homeless. That's the form of capital punishment prescribed for fallen Brahmanas, the highest class, the Sanatana Dharma, the intellectual class. There is no other corporeal form of capital punishment for them. Wow. I'm taking, like, my brain is taking notes. The sons of Bhanudu, along with Kurushanu, there's Kurushanu, and then there's Kurushanu. Kurushanu is the one with the longer nu, is a female, who were all stricken with grief at the loss of their sons, performed the cremation and other funeral rites in their respect of their departed kinsmen. Thus ends the seventh discourse entitled The Chastisement of Ashwatthama, in Book 1 of the great and glorious Bhagavata Purana, otherwise known as the Paramamsa Samhita. I'm gonna take a little bit. Thank you. This is more fun than I thought. Discourse 8. Sutta says, placing the ladies at the head and accompanied by Shri Kurushino, they will then repair to the bank of the Ganga in order to offer oblations of water to their departed kinsmen seeking such oblations. Having offered water to the deceased and bitterly wept for them, they will immerse themselves once more in the water of the Ganga that had been hallowed by contact with the dust of Shri Hari's lotus feet, showing how all created beings are subject to death, which cannot be averted. Lord Mahatava and the sages console King Yudhishthira and his younger brothers, Dhritarashtra and his wife Ganantari, who was stricken with grief at the loss of her sons, as well as Pritha and Kurushana, all of whom had lost their kith and kin and were sitting there plunged in grief. 1 second. I just moved here, so I'm still adjusting a lot of stuff. Having secured to King Yudhishthira his own kingdom that had been usurped by gamblers, and brought about the destruction of wicked kings, whose span of life had been cut short by touching a Draupadi's hair, and having helped him to perform as many as 3 Ashvamedha sacrifices with the best possible materials, and with the aid of the best available priests, he caused his sacred renown to spread in all directions like that of Inandra. Having taken leave of Banandu's sons and paid his respects to holy Brahmanas like Dvaipayana, who did their homage to him in return, he mounted his chariot and was just intending to leave for Dwaraka along with Satyaki and Uddhava when Shanaka he perceived Uddhara rushing towards him, stricken with fear. Uddhara said, "Protect me, O great yogi, save me, O supreme deity. O Lord of the universe, I see no asylum other than you in this world, where everyone is death to another. This dart of burning steel is pursuing me, O Almighty Lord. Let it burn me by all means, O my master, but let it not kill the child in my womb." Sutta says, hearing her words, the Lord, who is so fond of his devotees, understood that it was a missile discharged by Ashvatthama in order to exterminate the line of the Banandavas. That very moment, O chief of the sages, the sons of Banandu also saw 5 burning shafts coming towards them, and took up their own missiles. Perceiving the calamity of his kinsmen, who thought of none else than him, the Almighty Lord protected them with his own discus, Sudarshana. Shri Hari, the master of yoga, who is the very self-dwelling in the heart of all living beings, and built up the womb of Uddhara by his own Maya, yogic power, in order to preserve the line of Guru. Even though the missile presided over by Brahma is unfailing and irresistible, it proved ineffectual when it met the effulgence of Bhagavan Vishnu, or chief of the Purgus. Deem this not as a miracle on the part of Lord Achyuta, who is an embodiment of all wonders and who, though unborn himself, creates, maintains, and destroys this universe by his own deluding potency. When Shri Kurushino was about to leave, the virtuous Pritha, along with her sons, who had just escaped from the fire of the missile presided over by Brahma and her daughter-in-law, Kurushino addressed them as follows. Kunti said, "I, an ignorant woman, make obeisance to you, the primal person, transcending Prakriti and dwelling inside, as well as outside all created beings, the invisible and imperishable God existing beyond the range of sense perception and screened by the curtain of Maya. You cannot be seen by a man of perverted vision, even as a dunce would fail to recognize an actor appearing in a garb appropriate to the stage. How then can we women folk perceive you, who have appeared in our midst just to engender devotion in the heart of Paramahamsas, who are given to a contemplation and pure of mind? Obeisance to you, Shri Kurushino, son of Vasudeva, the delight of Vasudeva." Did they spell it wrong? I don't know. I no longer care about English spellings anymore. "The delight of Devaki, the foster child of the cowherd Nananda, Lord Govinda. Obeisance to you, whose navel is adorned with the lotus. Obeisance to you, wearing a wreath of lotus flowers. Obeisance to you, possessing lotus-like eyes. Obeisance to you, whose feet resemble the lotus. O Huri Shui Gesha, Huru Shui Gesha, even as you delivered Devaki, who had been shut up in prison for a long time by the wicked Gamansa, and was overcome with grief, so did you, Almighty Lord, repeatedly save me along with my sons from a series of calamities. It is you, O Hari, who protected us from poison, from a huge fire, from the look of man-eating demons, from the assembly of wicked people, from the perils met during forest life, from the missiles of many a great warrior in every battle, and just now from the missile discharged by Ashwatthama. May calamities befall us. May calamities befall us at every step through eternity, O Teacher of the world, for it is in adversity alone that we are blessed with your sight, which eliminates the possibility of our seeing another birth. A man whose birth, power, learning, and affluence only serve to swell his pride is unable even to utter your name, you being open to the perception of only those who have nothing to call their own. You are the only wealth of those who have no sense of possession. Beyond the realm of the three gunas or modes of prakriti, you delight in your own self and are perfectly calm. You are the Lord of Moksha. I bow to you again and again. I believe you to be Kala, the almighty ruler of all, having no beginning or end and moving alike among all creatures, although it is you, again, who serve as an occasion for them contend with one another. None, O Lord, can know what you intend doing when you are acting like men. No one is ever dear or loathsome to you. It is men alone who think of you in terms of diversity. O Lord, you are the soul of the universe, nay, the universe itself. You are, as a matter of fact, devoid of birth and actions. Your birth and actions in the subhuman species, as well as among men, brushes, and aquatic creatures, are mere sport. When you offended Yashoda, and she took a cord to bind you, the way in which you stood full of fear, with your face cast down, your eyes rolling about in confusion, and their aquarium dissolved in tears, fills me with bewilderment. To think that even he of whom fear itself is afraid should appear so stricken with fear. Some people aver that, though unborn, you have appeared in the race of your beloved Yadu of secret renown, just in order to enhance his glory, even as a sandal tree takes root on the Malaya mountain in order to bring reputation to the latter. Others declare that, though birthless, you were born of Devaki, Vasudeva's wife, for the protection of this world and the extermination of the enemies of gods, as solicited by the couple. Still, others assert that in response to the prayer of Brahma, you have appeared to relieve the burden of the earth, which was groaning under a heavy load like a vessel sinking in the sea. Some others maintain that you have descended on earth with the intention of performing deeds fit to be heard of or dwelt upon by those who are being tormented in this world by ignorance, desire, and selfish acts. That is why your devotees constantly listen to, sing, repeat to others, and contemplate on your stories and rejoice. And it is they alone who behold before long your lotus feet that put an end to the stream of births and deaths. O Lord, you have always granted the wishes of your own people. Is it a fact then that you intend this very day to leave us, your relations, who exclusively depend on you, and who have no asylum other than your lotus feet, having alienated other monarchs by inflicting suffering on them? When you are out of sight, the Yadus and ourselves, the Ban and Dobas, are of no more consequence in name or form than the senses when their ruler, the soul, has quitted them. This earth will not look so bright then, O builder of a maze, as it does now, adorned by your footprints, which are easily distinguished by their characteristic marks. These territories, so highly prosperous and so rich in their ripe crops and vegetation, as well as these woodlands and hills, rivers and oceans, flourish only under your benign looks. O Lord, you are not only the ruler and the soul of the universe, but the universe itself. Kindly cut asunder the strong bond of affection that binds me with my own people, the Banandos and the Vershinois. Even as the Ganga incessantly pours its waters into the ocean, so let my thought, O Lord of the Matus, constantly and exclusively find delight in you. O glorious Krishna, friend of Arjuna, constantly and foremost among the Vershinois. How long has it been? 46? Not that long. O glorious Krishna, friend of Arjuna, foremost among the Vershinois, Your fire, as it were to burn the whole race of princes for proving the bane of the earth. Your prowess is infinite, Govinda. Your descent on this earth is intended only to relieve the distress of the cows, the brahmanas, and the gods. Obeisance to you, O Master of Yoga, O Divine Teacher of the universe. Sudamanan. In this way, when Buddha extolled in sweet words the consummate glory of Lord Baikunantu, he gently smiled as if bewitching her by his maya, deluding potency. Sorry. I should always read the English because I read the Sanskrit. I mean, there's a link there if you don't believe me. So be it, said Shri Kurushino, and taking leave of her, entered the city of Hastinapura once again. Then after bidding adieu to the other ladies as well, he was about to leave for Dwaraka when King Yudhishthira detained him out of love. The king, who was seized with remorse, could not be consoled, even though Vyasa and others who understood the ways of providence, and even Shri Kurushino of marvelous deeds, comforted him by means of legends. Brooding over the deaths of his kinsmen with a bewildered mind, O holy Brahmanas, and overpowered by affection and infatuation, King Yudhishthira said, "Oh, look at this ignorance rooted in my heart. Evil-minded as I am, I brought about the destruction of many Akshauhinuis." Maybe I should give the meaning, the asterisk. It consists of 21,870 chariots, an equal number of elephants, same number of elephants. What is that number? I have no idea. It could be 1,009,350 foot and 65,610 horses. I don't care. It's a unit. It's an army unit. It's a very gigantic army unit. And once again, 21,000 chariots, the same number of elephants, 1 million foot soldiers. And unless that there's a zero, there is not a zero there, then that's a 100,000. It's either 1 million or 100,000. Thanks to the author. Thank you very much. Namaste. I'm crying. 65,000 horses. So it's like it's like martial law times 20 in peacetime. Anyway, okay. Oh, look at this ignorance rooted in my heart. Evil-minded as I am, I brought about the destruction of many Akshauhinuis for the sake of this body, which is the fruit of other creatures. There can be no redemption from hell even after millions and millions of years for me, an enemy of children, Brahmanas, my own kith and kin, friends, uncles, cousins, and preceptors. The saving clause found in the scriptures that the destruction of enemies in a righteous war on the part of a monarch seeking the protection of his subjects is no sin fails to satisfy me. The wrong that I have done in this life to the women folk whose husbands and other relations have been slain by me or on my account, I shall not be able to expiate through sacrificial performances enjoined on a householder. One cannot atone for the destruction of a single life by any number of sacrifices, any more than one can purify muddy water by dissolving more mud into it or counteract the pollution caused by spirituous liquor by adding more to it. Thus ends the 8th discourse entitled Kunti's Song of Practice and Yudhishthira's Remorse in Book 1 of the great and glorious Bhagavata Purana, otherwise known as the Paramahamsa Samhita. So my injuries are revealing themselves the more I do this because I'm getting tired. What does that mean? It means I'm turning into a monster in pain. A non-violent monster in pain. I watch everything I say, right? Keep going, or should I take another break? It's a really tough one. I'm taking a break now as I'm thinking. let's say I'm gonna take just another break. There should be a point where I don't like see I know a little things about myself. Once I go over a hurdle, then it really doesn't matter at that point. What I'm trying to say is, like, after say like 1 hour and 45 minutes, once I go over that, then I could go for like 7-8 hours. That's my theory about myself. Like almost so. Say like it'll take, I don't know how long it'll take me to get in the zone or whatever you call it, but there's too much pain associated with reading this, you know. So yeah, I'm gonna use my medicine. I'll take a break. I gotta. So at the same time, doing all these things, I have to be nice to myself. You know, trying to read the entire thing in 7 days, which literally means 30 hours a day. We only have 24 hours a day. We don't have 30 hours a day, you know, for 7 days. Like I should have considered all those things before jumping into, you know, the volcano to save the kitten or whatever. Who's the kitten? Me, I guess. I need to heal first. I am my own priority here. I have to heal first. Otherwise, we don't have a future. But since we know we have a future, I must do what I. Now it's becoming a cliche, which is better than fear. Cliches. You hate cliches? You know what? Cliches are at least better than fear. Okay, I'll be back. Thank you. Mic test. Okay, good. Not taking a break. I always leave that on sometimes. It's not cool. It's not cool, man. Discourse 9. Sutamanan. Thus afraid of the wrongs perpetrated against humanity, King Utishituira thereafter proceeded to Vinashana, where Devavrata lay, seeking enlightenment about all sacred duties. Thereupon all his celebrated brothers followed him, all holy Brahmanas in chariots, decked with gold and driven by excellent horses, as also the sages Vyasa, Taumya, and others. Lord Shri Kurushana himself, Oshanaka, were in a chariot, along with Dhananjaya. Accompanied by them, King Yudhishthira shone brightly like Kubera in the midst of the Guhyakas. Perceiving Bhishma lying on the ground like a god fallen from heaven, the Pandavas and their attendants, as well as Shri Krishna, made obeisance to him. At that time, Oshanaka, Brahmana sages, celestial sages, and royal sages all had assembled there in order to see Bhishma, Paivata, Narada, Taumya, the divine Padarayanu, Purahadashva, Paradvaja, Parashurama, with his pupils Vasishita, Inandra Pramada, Torotrita, Kuruttasamada, Asita, Kakushivan, Gautama, Naturi, Vishubha, Mitra, Sudarshana, and other holy sages like Brahmarata, and even so Kashyapa, Angirasa, Angangirasa, and others arrived with their pupils of Shaunaka. Seeing those highly blessed souls assembled there, Bhishma, who was well versed in the principles of right conduct, paid his respect to them with due regard to the occasion and place. Bhishma also was acquainted with the glory of Sri Krishna, the Lord of the universe, who had sat before him in a personal form assumed through Maya, and was also enthroned in his heart, and he paid his homage to him. Eyes blinded with tears of affection, Bhishma looked at the sons of Ananda, who sat beside him, full of modesty and love, and spoke to them as follows. How painful and how unjust it has been that you, the progeny of righteousness and votaries of the Brahmanas, Dharma and Lord Achyuta, should have lived a life of suffering, which you surely did not deserve. When the great warrior Barundu breathed his last, you were all tender of age, and my daughter-in-law, Purata, along with you, her children, had to suffer many hardships on your account more than once. I believe that all your unwelcome experiences were attributable to time, for the whole world, with its guardian deities, is ruled over by time, even as the clouds are by the wind. Where King Utishi Tuirang, the son of Taima, was the ruler, Bhima held a mace in his hand, Arjuna was the archer, and Gananduiba the bow. Where Shri Krishna was the friend and the well-wisher, to think of adversity even there. Indeed, no man, O king, can ever discover the intention of Shri Krishna. Even seers get bewildered in their seeking to find it out. Therefore, knowing it for certain that all these events depend on the will of providence, O chief of the Bharatas, follow his will, O ruler of men, and protect the helpless people, as you are the sole monarch. Shri Krishna is God himself. He is no other than the prime person, Lord Narayana. Deluding the world by his Maya, he lives incognito among the Vrishnuis. No one else than Lord Shiva, the celestial sage Narada, and Lord Kapila himself, or Utishi Tuina, know the most hidden glory of Shri Krishna, whom you think to be your cousin, beloved friend and greatest well-wisher, and whom out of affection you made your counselor, envoy, and charioteer. In him, who is the soul of the universe, who looks upon all with the same eye, is one without a second, and is free from egotism and blemishes, there can be no sense of diversity in regard to these divergent functions on any account. Yet, O king, look at his compassion for those who are exclusively devoted to him, and that Shri Krishna has appeared in person before me at this hour, when I am about to give up the ghost. A yogi who casts off his body with his thought fixed on him, through devotion and chanting his name with his tongue, is rid of all hankerings and released from the bondage of actions. May that Lord, who is adorable even for gods and possessed of four arms, whose lotus-like countenance beams with gracious smiles and reddish eyes, and who appears to others only in their meditations, stay on here till I shuffle off this body. Sutta continued. Hearing this, Utishi Tuina asked Bhishma, even as he lay on his cage-like bed of arrows, questions concerning a variety of timas, in the presence of the rishis. Thereupon Bhishma, who had realized the truth, discoursed upon one by one the various dharmas determined by the innate disposition of men, and apportioned with due regard to their varna and ashrama, and the twofold dharmas. Severally recommended for those endowed with dispassion and those who are full of worldly attachment, the dharmas relating to charitable gifts, the duties obligatory to monarchs, the courses of conduct which are conducive to liberation, the duties of men, and the courses of conduct that are intended to propitiate the Lord. Both briefly and in detail, he also explained, O Shaunaka, the four ends of human pursuit, viz. Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha, as well as the means to them in their true perspective, with the help of many illustrative anecdotes and stories. While he was thus discoursing on Dharma, there arrived a time when the sun changes its course towards the north, a time which is coveted by yogis who drop their body according to their pleasure. Thereupon Bhishma wound up his speech and exclusively all crap. So I don't know how I'm gonna do it. stop the whole thing after this chapter because I have to do my Kabbalah prayer or else I die. That's why I do my Kabbalah prayers. If you're of the Sanatan Dharma, I'm complaining. Why is he mixing up the two? Because if I don't do Kabbalah, I die. Do you still want to hear me reciting Sanskrit? I have to do my Kabbalah prayer. You have to choose now. It's like I can stop doing my Kabbalah prayer and there will be no Sanskrit for you because there will be no me. Or, anyway, okay. Let me finish this. While he was thus discoursing on Dharma, there arrived a time when the sun changes its course towards the north, a time which is coveted by yogis who drop their body according to their pleasure. Thereupon Bhishma wound up his speech and exclusively fixed his mind, which was absolutely free from worldly attachment, as well as his eyes, which knew no winking, on Sri Krishna, the Prime Person, who was present before him in his four-armed form, clad in shining yellow robes. The last traces of sin left in him were obliterated by his concentrated thought on the most holy, and the pain which he felt on account of the weapons quickly disappeared at a mere glance of the Lord. Now, while casting off his body, he stopped all the activities and wanderings of his senses and extolled the Lord Janardana. Bhishma said, now on the eve of my departure from my mind, which is free from all thirst, to the Supreme Lord, Shri Krishna, who, while retaining his own blissful character all along, sometimes assumes his own prakriti in order to carry on his sport, from which flows the stream of creation. My cherished motiveless love for Shri Krishna, the friend of Vijaya, who has assumed a personality charming to the three worlds, and dark as the Tamala tree, and is clad in excellent robes, brilliant as the rays of the sun, and whose lotus-like countenance has curly locks floating about it. May my mind, body, and soul rest in Shri Krishna, whose face is hemmed all round by flowing hair, soiled with the dust raised by the horse's hoofs on the battlefield, and is bedecked with drops of perspiration, and whose skin is being pierced by my sharp arrows, though protected with a shining armor. May I develop love for the friend of Bharata's son, who at the request of his friend immediately drove and placed his chariot in the middle of the Banandava and the Gaurava hosts, and planting himself there, cut short the life of the hostile warriors by his very looks. May I be blessed with devotion to the feet of that Supreme Being who, by imparting spiritual knowledge, dispelled the delusion of his friend, who, on seeing us at the van of the hostile army, arrayed at a distance, felt disinclined to kill his own kith and kin because he regarded it a sin. Breaking his own vow to fulfill and exalt my vow, Shri Krishna jumped down from the car on which he had taken his seat, and, like a lion that pounces upon an elephant to kill him, darted towards me with the wheel of his chariot in his hand, the earth trembling under his feet and his upper garments dropping behind him. Hit with the piercing arrows of a desperado like me and bathed in blood, and with his armor broken, he who rushed forth to kill me, disregarding the remonstrances of Arjuna, may that Lord Mukunanda be my asylum. May I, in my last moments, develop love for the Lord who, having taken upon himself the responsibility to protect the chariot of Vijaya, took the charioteer's whip in one hand and held the horse's reins in another, and looked most attractive in that charming role, witnessing which, they who fell on this battlefield attained a form similar to his. Having had the signal honor of enjoying the sight of his charming gait, graceful movements, winsome smiles, and amorous glances, the cowherd dresses in their mad ecstasy imitated his plays, and attained identity with him. In an assembly crowded with hosts of sages and foremost princes during the Rajasuya sacrifice performed by Yutishi Tuirang, Shri Krishna, who attracts the eyes of them all, had the honor of being worshipped first of all before my very eyes. It is he, the soul of the universe, who has appeared before me. Having shaken off the foolish idea of diversity, I have realized that unborn Lord, who though one is severally enthroned in the heart of all embodied creatures, brought forth by himself, even as the sun, though one appears as many to every eye. Sutam went on. Having thus merged his soul with all the activities of his mind, speech, and the visual sense in Shri Krishna, the universal soul Bhishma expired. his breath being dissolved into the atmospheric air. Perceiving that Bhishma had entered into the one indivisible Brahma, all those present there became silent even as birds do at the close of day. Then sounded kettle drums beaten by the gods and human beings. The pious among the princes shouted applause and showers of flowers poured from heaven. Having had the funeral and other rites performed in respect of the deceased, O Shaunaka, Yudhishthira was plunged in sorrow for some time. The sages extolled Shri Krishna with great delight, uttering his secret names. And then Shri Krishna in their heart they returned each to his own hermitage. Thereafter, Yudhishthira, accompanied by Shri Krishna, returned to Hastinapura and comforted his uncle as well as his aunt, who was known for his austerity, her austerity. Then, permitted by his uncle and with the approval of Shri Krishna, the king ruled over his ancestral kingdom with righteousness. Thus ends the ninth discourse entitled Recovery of the Throne by Yudhishthira in Book 1 of the Great and Glorious Bhagavata Purana, otherwise known as the Paramamsa Samhita. Alright, I'm already up to chapter 10, catching up. So I have to do up to chapter 14 and then I don't think I'm gonna, so I'm gonna end this right here. Give me 1 second.